For 9 long days, shrouded in dust and wind, Tiêu Vinh and Tiêu Vũ, along with their 2 remaining guards, finally arrived in Quảng County, Yangzhou. They had covered over 1,600 miles in just 9 days, a grueling journey for ordinary men, but for Tiêu Vinh, it was still not fast enough. Each time Tiêu Vinh thought of the name La Dinh Nguyen, and the old promise that gnawed at his heart like a persistent crack, he would spur his horse onward. His thighs burned, and his back ached, but the urgent need to mend a past wrong overshadowed his physical discomfort. This promise had weighed on him for decades, a burden yet to be lifted. His sworn brother, who had once shared joys and perils with him, now resided in Huangqiao village, about 30 miles south of Quảng city. 30 miles seemed insignificant compared to the 1,000 miles they had already traversed. Yet, Tiêu Vinh was not in a hurry. He knew some doors couldn't be knocked upon in a dusty, travel-worn state, nor with an anxious heart hoping to hastily make amends. He decided to rest in the city for a night, to bathe and tidy up. He instructed his guards to procure a carriage, tea, wine, silk, and complete ceremonial gifts. Only then would he approach the Luo family the next day. Inns usually lined the main streets, and Tiêu Vinh, leading the way, soon spotted the most spacious and impressive inn in the county. Tiêu Vinh dismounted first, his bones feeling as if they might fall apart, yet he stubbornly maintained a straight posture. He turned to look at Tiêu Vũ, who dismounted slower than usual, his movements stiff and somewhat rigid. Seizing the opportunity, Tiêu Vinh playfully teased, "Riding horses for so many days, your thighs must be screaming, aren't they?" His voice was light-hearted, but a subtle observation flickered in his eyes. Such a long journey would leave even him aching, let alone his son, who was more accustomed to books and brushes than swords and saddles. Tiêu Vũ simply glanced at his father, his calm gaze sweeping past the stark white teeth prominent on his father's sun-darkened, dust-covered face. Tiêu Vinh, disappointed by his son's lack of response, handed his horse to a guard. He suppressed the throbbing pain in his thighs and stepped into the inn. A general, though mighty, was still flesh and blood. When tired, he was tired, when weary, he was weary. He was merely more accustomed to enduring than a scholar, a subtle difference in their paths. He paid for 4 top-grade rooms. While the 2 guards attended to errands, father and son each called for a tub of hot water to rest and refresh themselves. The water was brought simultaneously. Tiêu Vinh finished his wash cursorily. For him, bathing was merely to remove dust and don clean clothes. He sat on the bed, massaging his calves. Each time he pressed down, a dull ache reminded him of the journey past, and of decades spent always moving forward, rarely looking back. From Tiêu Vu's room next door, the continuous sound of water echoed. A steady, prolonged flow, as if trying to wash away not just road dust, but also heavy thoughts and unspoken burdens from a long, arduous journey. Tiêu Vinh inwardly calculated that his son must have spent nearly half an hour bathing. He subtly hummed, unsure if it was a sigh of exasperation or self-assurance. His 3rd son had been fastidiously clean and disciplined since childhood. He worried about his son's reaction to the less-than-perfect cleanliness of a rural family like the Luos. As dusk approached, the 2 guards returned. Besides the carriage and gifts, they had also purchased 2 sets of fine silk garments for both father and son. Tiêu Vinh, usually unconcerned with attire as few people here recognized his identity, knew tomorrow was different. He didn't want to appear condescending or ostentatious to the Luo family, merely respectful. He looked at his son, his voice deepening, "Tomorrow, dress presentably. Do not speak ill, lest they look down upon you." This simple advice carried a heavy weight of worry. La Dinh Nguyen was not a man swayed by money. Offering silver to sever the old connection would be an insult. The best way was for his son to marry the Luo family's 2nd daughter, fulfilling the long-standing promise. Only if the marriage succeeded would the old debt be honorably repaid. Tiêu Vinh believed his son's handsome appearance and refined demeanor alone would ensure success. But that sharp tongue, even his own father and brothers were wary of it. If a single glance or an unintentional word offended them, wouldn't all his careful preparations be utterly in vain? Tiêu Vinh continued to instruct, his voice now laden with apprehension, but Tiêu Vũ maintained a serene expression, as calm as floating clouds and flowing water. He sat upright at the table, his hands gently smoothing the new robe, his eyes deep in thought, showing neither dissent nor agreement, seemingly processing his father's words. Only after his father had finished speaking, after a heavy silence filled the small room, did Tiêu Vũ break it. His voice was steady and measured. "Father," he began, "have you truly considered how you will atone to Uncle Luo?" His question hung in the air, creating an immediate, palpable tension. Tiêu Vinh froze, caught off guard. How would he atone? He had pondered it throughout their journey, even in his restless sleep, seeing himself standing before the Luo family gate, unsure how to begin. The promise had been his, made over wine in brotherly camaraderie. But circumstances changed, wars raged, and his status shifted. He had broken his word, 20 years ago. 20 years, and not once had he brought it up. Tiêu Vinh forced a strained smile, trying to deflect the intensity of his son's question. "You're skilled in literature," he joked weakly, "help me write a speech, I'll memorize it tonight." He spoke half jokingly, half seriously, but even he could hear the awkwardness and insincerity in his own voice. Tiêu Vũ gently but firmly shook his head. Atonement lies in sincerity, not words. Tiêu Vũ looked directly at his father, his gaze unwavering and resolute. "If father lacks even that sincerity, then forgive me, but I cannot accompany you to the Luo family." These words, soft yet heavy, struck Tiêu Vinh like a physical blow. He was accustomed to commanding, making decisive choices. But before his son's calm, resolute eyes, he suddenly felt exposed, stripped bare. The silence in the room became deafening as twilight faded outside, leaving an unresolved tension hanging heavy.